I got here a 2005 Nissan Altima with a 2.5 liter in it. Customer complaint is a crank no start. Now, let me just give a little background. This car had, I don't know if it was boosted backwards or don't know what, but there was no power to the computer, and there was no communication. So he diagnosed that one of the fuses here was not giving power when it should have had power. So he replaced this fuse box, the IDPM. Now there's power to the computer, but the computer still didn't communicate. So he replaced the computer with a used unit because it was like $30, and he programmed it himself. Pretty much you just have to put the VIN in, and you usually have to program the keys. Now he said the keys weren't communicating, but something with the engine light was flashing, like maybe right online. It's supposed to do that. I'm not sure. I'm in the middle of doing a full scan on it, and we'll see if we have communication. But what else was done? Oh, the radio doesn't work, and this fuse, I think it's this fuse, blows instantly. It's like a direct short to ground. It says audio there, so I'm assuming that's the fuse. I don't know if that's related or not. The blower motor stays on the whole time, which I have unplugged now. And what else? Anything else was done? All right, I don't know. So I wasn't sure. Maybe some of these cars don't have an immobilizer. So I checked with my key to max, and the key reads, and this thing gives a signal when I turn it. So I know that this car is supposed to have an immobilizer, and it's somehow working. All right, let's see what we got here. I just did a whole scan. Let me just make a report. Okay, so we have one fault in the transmission called initial start. That's it. Now, it looks like we read very few modules. We read the IDPM, the transmission, the airbag, the BCM, and the engine. Now let's go back here. We have no communication to the I key, which I don't know which one this uses. I'm assuming not I key. I think that's the smart key, which is the twist key. Or the nats, which that I'm assuming we need communication with, because it clearly is giving a signal over here. So we know this thing definitely has security. Let me crank it. Let me show you. So it just cranks, but there's nothing. I don't know if we're missing spark. I didn't look at anything yet. You know, I could check before that. Let me check if I'm getting an RPM signal. What would they call that? Engine speed. Okay. They default to degrees a minute, which I have no idea why. Alright. Okay, so I definitely have engine speed. So it means I'm getting a crank signal. Now, the question is, should I chase the immobilizer? Because I don't see the immobilizer light, but maybe you need communication to the immobilizer to have an immobilizer light. That I don't know. Or should I just go after this like any crank no start and check what we're missing? Fuel or spark or both or ignition pulse. Alright, let's see what's easiest to check. Alright, I'm going to start by just spraying some brake clean into the intake, just so we know if we have spark. Because if it starts with an alternative fuel source, meaning the difference, this is going to start even if we have no injection pulse. I mean start just temporarily, just for a second. So we know that we have spark at least. I'm just going to spray some in. Now I'm going to try to start it. And it started for a second. So, we know we have spark. That much is out. Now, we don't know if we have no fuel or if we're missing injection pulse, which security will make you lose injection pulse, I believe, on these cars. So, I want to check for fuel first, because I find this all easier than figuring out if we have, if there's a security issue or not, because I don't see a light. So I gotta get this cover off, find a place to put fuel in. Oh, it looks like it comes in from right here. Okay, great. So that means I could just put a gauge right here and see if we're building fuel pressure. All right, so I think the next easiest step would be to check for injection pulse. And then we'll know if it's a security issue or not. So I'm just gonna connect my scope. So I pierced the wire to the injector. And now I'm gonna connect my scope to it. Okay, so now I got here my U-scope, and with the key on, I should have battery voltage because it should be going through the injector. All right, so I just turned the key on, and I have nothing here. Am I connected good? Okay, good. I have battery voltage now. So that means the injector's not open. All right, can you crank the car for me? We have absolutely no injection pulse. Okay, so we have no injector pulse. So now I'm going back to thinking it is a security issue. All right, so I'm gonna check a diagram to see how this NETS module is set up. Okay, let's pull up a diagram for anti-theft and alarm systems, Immobilizer circuits. Let's see how this thing's set up. All right, we got a fuse, 3 fuses. We have a NATS antenna amplifier, which we know works. Under the antenna amplifier, that's not the coil. Wait, so we need, okay, the BCM. Immobilizer antenna signal. On the clock is fuse 1 10 amp. Oh, so it could be this radio thing is the problem. Do I have communication with the BCM? That's what seems like what I need. Let's go into the BCM. Read data stream. Alright, so we have an ignition switch. Off and on. Okay, so that much works. Do we have theft alarm or anything? Let's see what we have in special functions. Just for remotes, hazard lamp, retaining power set. We do not have a security indicator lamp anywhere. That comes from fuse 19. Behind left side of the dash, fuse 19 should give us power, and the output, this should ground it when we want it on. Alright, so let's go check these fuses over here. Alright, fuse 1. We should check fuse 1 and fuse 21. And fuse 19, sorry. Let's see. How's this set up? Yeah, I need to find a fuse box diagram because the numbers are different. Let's go to fuse box junction box. Is it 10? Let me see. This is it. Okay, great. So right here is the fuse box. Now, let's see. We need fuse. 1 is a 10 amp. We need fuse number 1. So fuse number 1 is this guy right here. I'm gonna go get a test light and see if this fuse is any good. Okay, so now I'm going to check test light. Fuse number 1. We have power on one side and power on the other. Okay, so this fuse is good. Now, what other fuses do we need to check? We have to check fuse number 19. So it is a 10 amp fuse also. So let's see. Let's go to the other diagram. If that's fuse number 1, so we have to turn it this way. Then 19 is 8 up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 up. It's this guy right here. Has power on this side. And has power on this side. Okay, so that fuse is good. I'll just make sure I'm right over there. Yeah, it's right after 2 blinks. Okay, good. Then what other fuses do we need to check? We need to check 21 takes us to the actual battery control module fuse. So we may as well just check that also. 19. So this is 21. There's power on that side. Power on that side. Alright, so let me figure out about the security indicator light. Alright, so I decided to chase down the reason why there's no security light. So if you look at the diagram, it's pretty much controlled by the BCM. Now I have no data on my scan tool letting me see any information on this, but there's a security lamp indicator that's supposed to be going on. So I decided I'm going to check power right here, or check for power here, then ground it and see if the security light goes on. But I decided, so I pulled out the BCM. It's right over here, and I decided I'm just going to look at it first, just to see if anything sticks out at me. And let me show you what I found. So take it out. First thing I noticed was that this relay right here is melted. And then I noticed in the back, this trace right here is open. So now I don't have my wire here to fix this now. I'm gonna just try to repair this with just solder for now, see if it works. I'm just curious to know if this is our issue. Hope solder will stick to this. I'm gonna try to fix this with solder, and then I just want to see if we got a security light, or maybe we'll even start if I program the key. We really have to figure out the initial problem that caused all these modules to blow. Something with the alternator on. Probably gonna he said the alternator was very noisy and it wasn't charging, so I'm gonna recommend replacing the alternator. I'll disconnect it before I mess around with it anymore, so it shouldn't blow anything else out. All right, but I'm gonna try to fix this. All right, I'm gonna try to bridge this with solder. This is not the right way to do this, but this is what I have with me now. I don't think it's gonna work anyway, so I don't mind giving it a shot. All right, it's not pretty, but it's bridged. So I'm gonna plug this in now and see if we get anything. I'm just gonna put this cover on. Something just smoked up. Yeah, it blew my connection instantly. I'm gonna put a new BCM in and we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching. Alright, one last thing I want to do before we stick a BCM in here is I want to check what the short is. See if I can find it, because maybe that's what's causing half these issues. I don't know. So I'm going to get a test light to put in place of that. I got a 4-amp test light. I'm going to put it across the fuse. And it lights up bright. So we know we have a dead short to ground right here. Okay? So, I want to first go unplug the stereo, see if anything changes. Alright, so I got here stereo. And I'm going to disconnect this guy. Oh wait, there's 2 connectors. Okay, that's one. And into. All right, stereo is disconnected, and our short's out. So it's just a dead stereo. All right, let me just plug it back in and make sure our short comes back. And it's one connector in, and our short's back. So this thing's just a dead stereo. All right, I'll tell them to order a stereo also. Something blew all the modules. All right, thanks for watching.